Hi everyone, this is Paris de Bono of the Fortune Teller Shop. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that I really don't know a lot about, but I thought by sharing I could probably find out more information. Many years ago, I was getting a few clients that were asking me about the Ouija board or the Ouija board, and I had to confess to them that I really didn't know anything about it, or not much about it, only what I saw in movies and sort of sensationalized stuff. I'm a fortune teller and I read tarot cards and astrology and palmistry. So I know a lot about those topics, but with the Ouija board I didn't know anything. So I went on a sort of search. I asked around and I asked friends and clients if they knew people that knew how to actually do the Ouija board well. And I'm going to share a few experiences that I had. Firstly, before I started, I actually went online and did a bit of research, and I really couldn't find anything of substance, say, or again, a lot of things were sensationalized, a lot of horror movie type sort of imagery. But when I tried to look for more serious kind of sources, I couldn't really find anything that I was satisfied with. So I asked around, I asked friends and also clients if they knew anybody that was, good at reading the board, because I wanted to do some research and I wanted to be able to tell other people about my experience, because I was in a role where people were coming to me for knowledge and I felt like I didn't know enough about the topic, so I went on a search. So the first person I met was a friend of mine who said that she had worked with the board and she got some interesting results from it. So we organised a get-together. It was me, and we're going to call this the Marcy group. It was Marcy, and I think it was about 4 or 5 of her friends. And they were all in their early 20s. I was sort of in my early 30s at the time. And I felt like the group was a little bit immature, but it was my first experience, so I wanted to see what would happen. So we set an evening. We had the candles going. We had the incense. We sort of got together around a table, and we did the prayer with the Ouija board that she had. It came with a little prayer, like an opening prayer. And we did that, we held hands, we did all the ritual, and, it was quite a nice energy, nice space. And at first, the planchette did move. We all put our fingers on it, one finger each, and it did feel like it was moving, and some of us thought that perhaps someone else was moving it, but it did feel real. At first it would just spell out different letters and just any sort of random words, and one person was writing it down. So every time the board would point out a letter, one of the scribes would write down the letter, and at the end of the session, which went for about 5-10 minutes each session, and then we'd stop for a little break. We'd just read the notes, and most of it was just didn't say anything. The first session was a little bit disappointing because I was hoping to get, some information, some psychic messages. What we got the first time was a lot of almost like, we did get messages, which was spooky and freaky in itself. But the messages were kind of childish, and this boy's gonna talk to you, and this boy likes you. The group I was the only male, and there were five young ladies, and I felt like the messages reflected their kind of what that was on their mind. So to me, I was thinking maybe the Ouija board is just a way of our subconscious expressing stuff to us. It was like Johnny's gonna call you on a date, and Freddie's gonna speak to you tomorrow. It was kind of that kind of messages. It wasn't anything deep or meaningful. So we sort of stopped that session, and it was spooky. I mean, we did it at night time as well, so I remember it was a bit spooky, and then we decided to do another session in another week or so. So the second session of Marcy's group, again, we got together, we did the same thing. We did the opening prayer, we did had the candle, the incense, and I remember the board this time was kind of faster. We kind of had the hang of it. We knew what we were doing, and it was giving us messages again, but again, they were not very serious type messages. I remember one of the women, the board told her that David would call her on a certain day. It told her the day and the time even. It said like Saturday at 4 o'clock. So I thought that was good because we had at least something to confirm. It did pick up on the name David, but her friends knew that she liked a guy called David, so it wasn't as if it was her secret. We did check in with her after the Saturday when the board told her it would call. It told her on the day, it even spelled out the date. And then she told us that he did not call her, so that prophecy did not come to fruition. But there was an interesting situation that did happen in that second session. I remember the board spelled out the word fire, F-I-R-E, and we were wondering what it was talking about, and we were sort of wondering, why is it spelling fire? It kept spelling out the word fire several times. And it was getting spooky because we were thinking there's something on fire. We looked around and there was a candle. One of the candles had melted, and it was melting all over the stereo system. So we stopped the session. So it was warning us that the candle was melting and was going to melt all over the CD player. The other thing it did was it spelt out the word cat, C-A-T, and again we're wondering what the hell is this, and we stopped the session because we couldn't figure out why it was saying cat, and we opened the door to go to the kitchen, and the cat was sort of standing in the doorway. Marcy did have a cat, and that was kind of spooky as well, but that was kind of all we got. And then we sort of, I kind of lost interest in pursuing it with that group. The second session I had was with a woman named Lynn. She was in her sort of mid-40s at the time, and I met her through an esoteric shop that I worked for, and she was a professional tarot reader as well as an angel card reader as well. Sort of very spiritual, very mature lady. Also a friend of mine who was an astrologer, male friend who was in his 50s. He was interested in learning about the Ouija board too. He'd never done it before, and he was an astrologer and a tarot reader himself. So we got together. This time we met up in the afternoon. It was around 4 o'clock. The three of us, we did the ritual, we did the prayer. Lynn's board also came with a little ritual prayer, like a protection prayer. We did the board. It was interesting. The messages it gave us were quite pleasant. I remember it told me that it literally spelled out, will travel far, will see grandparents. And that did come true, because about a year and a half later I did travel to Europe to sort of see my grandparents. So I'm from Australia, so I did travel that far. Apart from that, it just told us things about the male friend's mother. She'd passed on, and she was sort of spelling out things like she loves you, she sends her love, and that kind of thing. Again, nothing very stable or very and anything that I could really was that excited by. It was fun. It was interesting. It was a positive experience, but it left me feeling, again, like it was probably talking about our subconscious, because the way the messages came through reflected the people in the group. Also, I did notice in Lynn's group the spelling was really good, whereas with Marcy's group the board made a lot of spelling mistakes. So again, I think it was reflecting the people who were present. So by this point, I'd lost a bit of interest in the Ouija board. Found it an interesting experience, but was a bit sort of skeptical, and it made me realize how much I appreciated tarot cards, because at least with tarot I felt like I used to get answers, and you know, the prophecies and stuff I would see in the cards would come true for people and for myself. So it kind of gave me a bigger respect for tarot. So the third group I met up with, I was in Europe now, and so a few years went by, and I met up with a lady. This time the leader was Doris. Doris and two of her friends, female friends, they were in their mid-40s. And these women, you know, they had been through a lot themselves. There was divorces, there was family dramas. I remember one of the ladies' son was on drugs. So these women were much more, say, rough and ready, I want to say. You know, we did the session again. We did the candles. We did the prayer. By now I had a bit of experience, so I knew how to sort of, you know, how to proceed with the situation. The messages we got were, at first they were quite pleasant. They were quite, you know, messages from the other side, I think. And after say half an hour, we were getting sort of random messages. We were getting a lot more gossipy type messages. This person hates you. This person likes you. This person's jealous of you. After a while, I did feel like this group was it was just a bit more negative, and I didn't enjoy the interactions as much. I just felt like there was a bit more manipulation from the participants going on, and I also felt like they were wanting to find out more gossipy type information. Towards the end of the session, the board actually started swearing at us. So it started spelling out fuck and, you know, you're a bitch and things like that. And when it got to that point, I decided to stop the session, and I didn't return with that group again. So in summary, in conclusion, I think that there is something to it, the board, but I think it really reflects the people who are participating in it. I haven't had any experiences with the board since, so I don't know, and I'm sure there are people out there that know way more than I do. But that was my experience. I wanted to put it down as a record, and yeah, so this is Paris de Bono of the Fortune Teller Shop, and I hope you enjoyed that conversation.